everybody. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Box Seats. I'm your host, Frank Holder, and if you're familiar with the show, you know this show is the show where we basically merge comedy with sports. Let me bring in the comedians who you guys have known. They've been out all over the world. They've traveled. They've been in film festivals. They've been in commercials. They have been, you know what, they've been doing the comedy so long that sometimes I even forget all the stuff. My man Fig is one of the first comics I want to bring up. He's been doing comedy for a very long time. My man Talent, another comic I want to bring up who's been doing comedy for a very long time. And then I got to bring in my man Amir. He's a guest. Amir, thank you for sitting in for my man Rodney Perry. I appreciate you, bro.
Yes. What's going on, fellas? How's everything?
What up, Amir? All right, so let's get ready to jump into the show, man. Y'all know how we do. Yesterday, I said that I didn't want to talk about the COVID report because it's the same thing. But today's COVID report, I'm going to start with you, Talent, man. And I'm going to say this. I don't think you're going to be surprised when you hear this one, but the United States has officially warned every citizen and every athlete to traveling to Japan because of the rise in COVID vaccination. Whether you have a COVID shot or not, the United States is urging people not to travel to Japan for the Summer Olympics that literally begins in 7 weeks. Thoughts, Talent?
Yeah, I seen that news break, and I was like, yo, that's pretty damn serious. You know what I mean? But in the defense of the State Department that's issuing this to our citizens, the numbers are skyrocketing over there. You know, you got the majority of the world going in the right direction, meaning down, and getting a grasp on the virus and the pandemic. And then you got Japan and a couple other places like India that seem to be going in the opposite direction. So I get it. I can't even be mad at them. They're trying to put safety first.
Right. Before I even jump on to Fig, I said Tuesday. I said Wednesday. It's Tuesday. It goes to show you how tired I am. Okay, it's Tuesday. I got that. It's Tuesday. My wife, everybody else telling me it's okay. Yes. A brother can make a mistake. If Dan Rather can make a mistake, daggone it, so can I. Right.
But I'd rather you not.
I appreciate that. And I'm sure the producers Dan rather not too, but it happened. Big, what's your thought about the COVID report, man? You know, about the United States urging people not to travel to Japan because of the rise in COVID vaccinations, almost 3-1. What's your thoughts?
The funny thing about it is the United States is opening up everything. Huh? All right, I want you to open up the stores. Yeah, the bar too. Open up the bar. Listen, open up all the stadiums. Let's get these people in here because we need this money. Yeah, but I'm going to go play in Japan. You better not go to Japan.
Man, what's your thought?
I think they're doing a wonderful job, like you said, of protecting the citizens. Because the situation is what it is, we really do have to, still be cautious about, how we're opening back up to what's going on in the world. Yes, it's been, a nice little minute before, since everybody's been able to really get out and enjoy themselves, but we still have to take precautions as we, get back into what we think is going to be our new normal. So I think it's a great thing that they're doing that.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think it's a great thing also. I'm a little concerned about any athlete that wants to go over there that's not vaccinated because, obviously it's a health issue for me. You know what I mean? It's a big health issue for me. Now, here's another thing that I wanted to talk about, only because it's all over the news today. I think we should have to speak on it and everything else. Like we all know, it's the anniversary of George Floyd, but also the NBA now is passing a social justice coalition. They are urging the passing of a police reform bill, and this is literally on the anniversary of George Floyd's death. Talent, tell me what you think about the NBA as one of the only sports, to lead in this social justice reform thing. What's your thought?
Well, it reminds me of a year ago. Remember, a year ago, when the climate drastically changed, the NBA was the driving force to start the whole, out of all the sports organizations, they was the first one to jump out there, and then the NFL kind of followed suit and started to catch on. Remember, the NFL was kind of resistant with the whole Kaepernick thing and kind of playing that safeguard. But when the NBA jumped out there, then you see the other sports like, you know what, they're serious.
Right.
So I'm not surprised.
Fig, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I'm with Talent on this one, man. Is you know, is in order to get something passed in this country, you need finances, you need capital to put pressure on people. The NBA is a large organization, a lot of money, you know, full of millionaires and billionaire owners, and those are the people who have the ear of the politicians. And it's time, man. It really is time. And I think the combination of COVID and social media brought so much attention to what actually happened to George Floyd, because, you know, Black people in America have been talking about social injustice, police brutality for a long time. And finally, the COVID had people at home, and social media brought what was happening to George Floyd right in everybody's living room when they ordinarily would have been at work. So it's time. It was the perfect storm.
Amir, what is your thoughts on this, bro?
I think you know, like Talent just said, and I agree with Fig as well. I think one of the really beautiful things about this is the NBA, you know, unlike maybe some of its other sports, has a more dynamic and it touches the urban community possibly a little bit more than maybe football and baseball and, you know, so forth and so on. So, you know, to have those gentlemen and the league, you know, take this responsibility on and look forward to being in bringing such a bill, you know, at least to fruition, or at least, you know, starting a conversation, I think is incredible. And I look forward to the NBA and other organizations hopefully joining in and coming together so that we can continue to keep this thing moving forward. It's imperative that we get, you know, some sort of stranglehold or, you know, some sort of footage together so that this thing, you know, really gets traction and we really are able to do something with it. So I think that this is a wonderful, wonderful step.
I think too that if the NBA is able to make some movements and everything else, you should really be able to quickly see all the other major sports jump in on this like immediately. Because as we know, in the last year, the NBA has been leading the charge on all of this. Actually, I mean, some people could argue the WNBA was the first one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Say that. Yeah, I mean, but and kudos to the women, because you know how, listen, women, it's in their nature to be mamas and aunties and everybody else to jump in first, and then everybody else follows. So kudos to the ladies, man. You know, I wanted to say that first. Another story came I saw this morning. Trey Burton, who's a tight end, right now he's a free agent. He came out and said one of the dumbest statements you ever want to hear. I don't know if you all caught this morning, but he's a tight end. He said, I don't see what's going on with the Tim Tebow thing. I don't understand what the big outrage is and everything else. Now, I'm following up this story with with what we just talked about, because I wanted to say this. It seems in this country, no matter where we stand and what we do, there seems people to have privilege, and there seems people to be literally oblivious to what's going on in the rest of the world. You know what I mean? So I want to ask you, Talent, am I wrong in having this assumption? Is he wrong? I mean, should he sit there and say, you know, what Tim Tebow's got a fair shot and there's no big deal, or the complete utter opposite? You know what I mean? I don't even want to put words in your mouth. You tell me what you think.
You're not wrong. I always say this on my shows. I always say it's three type of people in the world right now. It's the people who get it right away, and that's usually us because we walk in the skin. There's people who don't get it right away, but that's okay because people, you have math tutors, you can have life tutors. But it's the person number three person is the person who don't want to get it. That's what these people sound like. The ones who try to portray themselves as totally oblivious, they just want to not get it, because people think that change, or when you have these conversations, it means you're taking something from them to give equality. Equality is this across the board. It's not taking from you to give to me. It's just making sure I get the same opportunity.
Right.
You know what I mean? So no, you're not wrong. You're hitting the nail on the head, to be exact.
That's a great point. Hey, good job.
Listen, man. I agree 100% with Talent, man. There are certain words and labels that we can't use. So I'm going to change one of those labels, and I'm going to change it to the ostriches. We have ostriches in this world. And you know what an ostrich does when stuff is going on? An ostrich buries its head in the sand, because even though chaos is all around them, they bury their head in the sand, because it's like, if I don't see it, then it's not happening. And I think that's the way a lot of people go through life, especially, but we only can really talk about America because that's where we live. And this is what we know. This is the culture and the environment that we know. A lot of people, even though things are going on, people have buried their head in the sand and they want to pretend like it's not happening, when there are thousands, millions of people saying, oh, yes, it is. It's happening to us every day.
Good point. Amir, what's your thoughts?
You know, we are unfortunately in a climate where, you know, you just do have some people who I also think just don't know history. And they don't know history not for lack of a better word, because of age and because of, you know, just not, maybe that not being a culture in, you know, within their family or within, you know, the people who they hang around. So when you don't know history, it's pretty easy for you to, you know, not really think to yourself maybe about what you say and how you share your ideas, because you have no context. And I think when we look at the age of some of these players and, you know, you think about exactly, you know, how old they are, if you were in high school or junior high school, you may or may not have been paying attention to the news as we are, you know, those of us who are a little bit older. So therefore, you really don't know what's going on in the world. Why? Because it wasn't something that was in your wheelhouse. When Tim Tebow or some of these incidences happen, some of these people are very young. So they don't really follow up with that in any real way, shape, or form until it's brought to them in, you know, in this format as it is currently. Then you got to kind of do your research and go, oh, okay, that's what they're talking about. So it could be a case of that. But whatever the case is, we just have to understand that, as Talon said, there are going to be some people who just don't get it. Right. And unfortunately, we just have to, you know, go with that and be you, as my boss says, do you, be free.
Yeah. All right, let me bring up the next topic. I meant to bring this up yesterday, and I forgot. I'll be honest, I forgot. And we'll talk more about the NBA later, but I wanted to bring up this LeBron James story that happened over the weekend. Now, we all saw that, or we all heard, if we were paying attention to the games this weekend, we all heard that LeBron James literally violated the COVID protocol. And after he violated protocol, unlike all the rest of the NBA players in the last year who violated protocol, he was not suspended. Now, I wanted to hear from you, Talent. You tell me, when you hear that LeBron James was not suspended, I know you wasn't surprised because he's the biggest star in the league. But how are we as fans going to basically listen to what the NBA is saying when they show preferential treatment to their stars and they don't have overall treatment for everybody? You know what I mean? Because you just can't not suspend LeBron James. I know it's the playoffs, but he should have been suspended. You know what I mean?
I don't know about suspension. There's exceptions to every rule, and the fact that he went to a cookout. Come on.
So my man went to a strip club. He got suspended. Same thing.
The strip club is kind of frowned upon past the Bible Belt. But a cookout, come on. Everybody's entitled to a little hot dog here and there. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I mean, all jokes aside, we know it's a double standard. We know that the league can't afford to reprimand the biggest stars. They try to set examples with smaller stars of players, but when you're dealing with the top cream of the crop, and the timing too. Look where we are. We're right on the cusp of playoffs. Yeah. You know, that would mess with Vegas money. That's what mess with gamblers everywhere. They would be under so much fire from the average fan who like really goes, you know, you gotta realize that they just legalized this betting everywhere, even in New York. So that would put them under a super fire that they wasn't ready to be under. I think had it been mid-season or beginning of the season, I think they would have did the right thing. What they were supposed to do was stuck to protocol. But I think because it's right at the cusp of the playoffs, I don't think they would have took that chance, because that would have been either right coming out of the play-in game or game one. It would affect one of those games.
Yeah, it definitely would have. But Fig, tell me that wasn't a huge slap in the face of preferential treatment. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know. What you think?
I remember this season where they took KD off of the court for a minute's restriction, and then they went and found out that he had been around somebody who possibly may have had COVID, and then he had to be on restriction, like he couldn't play, and they kept him out of the game. The one thing that I did find out yesterday about the LeBron event is that everybody that attended that event was supposed to be either tested negatively for COVID or had their vaccine. And that was the requirement to get into that event. Now, I don't know if that is the absolute truth, but the NBA could not afford to start the playoffs without LeBron James, the face of the league. So maybe that was, something they did to cover things up. But we all know that they do have double standards in every industry, and sports is not exempt.
Amir, talk to me.
I'm a kind of tend to agree with everybody who spoke thus far. Look, LeBron James is not only the biggest name and the biggest star, as far as the playoffs go, but he's the real reason why so many people are tuning in, because either you really love him or you really hate him. But either way, you're trying to, effectively and efficiently watch the playoffs so you can see what happens to him. Check your timelines, check all your social media. That's all anybody wants to talk about. Oh, they lost, or this happened, or that happened. We can care less about some of the other players who obviously are doing great things thus far in the playoffs, because we're worried about what LeBron does or does not do. His impact on the game and his impact on what the NBA is able to do and the money that's, able to be made, with him being part of the conversation, they can't afford to not have that going on at this particular point. And unfortunately, yes, it's not a fair thing, and it's something that, we have to continue to watch. But going forward, trust and believe. Like you said, if this was any other time other than the playoffs, I think that they would have handled this differently. So I agree with Talon on that part.
I just think it was so blatant. I just was like that. Usually they stay in the line. Sometimes they blur the lines every now and then, but that was just overly blatant. Like, I was just right out in your face, blatant. You know what I mean? All right, let me move on. The next thing I want to talk about is Aaron Rodgers came on the news last night. He was on SportsCenter. I flicked up and I caught a lot of it while the game was on. And I never heard so much double talking in my life, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like, I heard a whole lot of double talking. Yeah, I mean. Let's just say this, without trying to make this dude look like an utter fool, because he did sound like one. He lied to me. Like, I felt that he lied. I felt he lied to his fan base. I felt he was lying through his teeth. He got asked point blank certain questions, and he kept trying. You know how you asking somebody and they talking around the whole thing, and they go, "Well, I'm not." They go, "Dude, yes or no? Do you want to stay? Do you want to go?" Well, his quote was, I want to make sure I get this correct. His quote was, "I don't like the philosophy of the Green Bay Packers." Now, I was like, who gives a damn about philosophy? Do you want to stay or do you want to go? If you're playing football, the philosophical statement of whether or not to be or not to be, that is the question. Don't mean a damn if you're playing football. You know what I'm saying? Tell him what you think. To be or not to be. And we should figure that.
He's reaching. He's like,
yeah.
They drafted too many Sagittariuses. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Yes or no? You're going to be here. You're not going to be here. Well, you know what it is, man? When the camera is on you, it's one thing to leak information. You can always kind of walk that back quicker or say I was joking or whatever because it's a leak. When you are sitting there and that microphone's in your face and that camera mano a mano with the reporter, the interviewer, and they ask you those yes or no's, people start dancing.
Yes.
They start dancing. So the fact that he started dancing, Frank, is telling me something. If you got to dance, because the word on the street, it was adamant that you were out. You don't want to be there. You was gone. Now you're dancing. leaves a little bit of hope for Green Bay.
Yeah, maybe, but let's not underline the fact that he said that they drafted too much Sagittarius.
That's a dumb answer. Like you
Yeah,
said, philosophy. Come on.
I was like, Fig, when you saw Aaron Rodgers say that, what was the thought that you crossed your mind? For,
He indirectly said exactly what the problem is, man. He said, I love Jordan Love. Pause. He said the kid is talented, blah, blah, blah. He said, love my coaches, my teammates, the area. And what he was alluding to, in my estimation, is that he has a problem with the GM.
Mm-hmm.
He has a problem with the general manager. And sources say that he went into the office to give his opinion on what it is that he thought that he needed to make the team better, and basically was told, this is what we do, you do what you do, and shut up and dribble. He was highly insulted, and that's where this whole problem started. If you think about it, Aaron Rodgers said, I don't want to come back unless this guy is not here. That's the GM that said what he said to Aaron Rodgers, and that's why Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay.
Amen.
It's funny, listening to both Fig and Talent's points, and then, taking into consideration his actual words. Philosophy obviously takes on, so many different connotations, but in this particular case, it really boils down to, like you said, the vision of what he sees for the team, or the vision that he has for, how the team should function and what should happen in terms of them being able to compete every year, year in and year out. And as Fig just pointed out, maybe the GM has a whole different, vision. Now, obviously, the ultimate thing is for the players and the GM to get on the same page. In Aaron's, case, unfortunately, he's also an older player. So even though he's still one of the baddest men on the planet, there's no question about that. Sometimes the team starts looking for what's down the line, because they're saying to themselves, we only have, but so many good years left with you. And we have to really start thinking about what happens once you're no longer a part of what we do here. And sometimes that can be a bit of a challenge, obviously, for all parties involved. So it, to me, sounds like that's really what's going on there. They need a kumbaya moment to sit down, have a real heart-to-heart, and figure this thing out. And we have to wait and see if that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, though. I think he's still going to be out, but you're right. I think it's going to happen. The next thing I want to bring up,
Frank, it doesn't help the fact that the GM is actually Sagittarius, too.
The next thing I want to bring up is that, speaking of teams and having players and issues and everything else, man, Stan Van Gundy, who has a history of having a hard time with players on everything else. Because I remember when he was the Orlando coach and Orlando went to the finals and everything else, it came out later that the Orlando Magic players were very upset. They didn't like the way he talks to them and everything else. It seems Stan Van Gundy has not changed his color. Seems like he's doing the exact same thing. And the Pelican players are upset with him. And word is, literally, I saw about 30 minutes before we came on the air, is that some of the Pelican players are so upset they want him to be replaced before this upcoming season. Now, Talent, if you hear the news that the Pelican players want to replace him, do you replace him? Because he did turn around the Pelicans. You know what I mean? Stan Van Gundy, should he stay? Should he go?
He should stay. I don't think you should listen to young dudes anyway. I think that was the problem in Orlando. They put too much stock into Dwight Howard at the time, and Dwight Howard had him ousted, lost his job. Mm-hmm. It's hard to find good coaches, man, especially with the league getting younger by the year. With the league getting younger by the year, it's going to be even harder each year to get a good coach that can mold these young athletic dudes into being the prospects that they potentially could be. What are we going to start doing? If we get rid of Stan, what are we going to start doing? Bringing in yes men? Yes men can't teach you nothing. Yeah. Yes men don't make you better. Yes men just do one thing. They say yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very good too. Great point. Fig, what you think?
I think they ought to get rid of Stan Van Gundy's old tired ways. I like Jeff, but I never liked Stan. You can't lose your hair and be fat and be a coach too. Those things don't go together. And be mean. So you can't be mean, fat, and lose your hair and be a coach of young, talented black players, and it ain't working out. And that's why Dwight Howard didn't like Stan Van Gundy, but Dwight Howard was two-faced, so he tried to pretend like he didn't get Stan Van Gundy fired when he actually did, and we all know he did, but he didn't want to take responsibility for it. Stand up for yourself, Dwight, but he didn't. So, I think they didn't do that good anyway. They ain't in the playoffs. They didn't even make the play-in. So how good did they do? What do you mean turn the team around? What? He turned them into the 9th place instead of the 10th place? That ain't good. They got one of the most polarizing players in the entire NBA in Zion, and they not in the playoffs. We ain't seen them. Where they at? Get rid of Stan.
Actually, they were the worst team in the league 3 seasons ago, and now they're not. So, I mean, if you're a Pelican player, if you're a Pelican fan, you could at least see the opportunity where they come. They almost made the playoffs, though. So, Amir, what's your thoughts?
I think, sometimes, we also have to take into consideration, when you're trying to teach young people, things, and particularly, this newer generation, I've said this on other things, we have to realize that there are ways, obviously, that you have to talk differently to this new generation than we were taught to. They're not as open-minded to screaming and chastising like we were. That was a culture that we grew up in. They didn't grow up in that culture. They grew up in timeout and let me take your electronic things away and stuff like that. So I think Stan Van Gundy, while obviously he definitely changed the culture, he's changed the culture. They have to do a situation here where he has to figure out a way where, he also continues to help these players, continue to grow, but he's got to give it to them in a way that they understand. A lot of, those of us who are older and still working in, various formats, you find that when you talk to young people, that's the one thing that they can't take. If you raise your voice, they get upset. You raised your voice. We come from a screaming culture. Your mother and your father screamed at you. Your neighbor screamed at you. Your older brother screamed at you. Your big sister screamed at you. These kids they're not from that culture. So for them, it's a little harder for them to process under those circumstances. So he has to upgrade his teaching ways probably, and they'll, be able to do better.
I wouldn't change jack shit. I would, because let me explain something to you. 99.9% of the time, when a kid goes into a coaching situation, the coach is almost always going to be older than you, right? So it's not like you're coming in like this and he's listening to the same music as you, got on the same sneakers. No, I'm older than you. And the elders teach the younger people. That's how they become elders themselves eventually. So this guy that's older than you, who's been here longer than you, who knows more than you about the game, because all you really have is athleticism and a little bit of fundamentals you picked up along the way. Now you're at the professional level. Now this guy is the professional level coach. He's not the AAU. He's not the JV. He's the professional level. So it's supposed to be like, damn it, boot camp, like basic training.
Yeah.
When you leave your house as a young man and join the service, you think they're gonna lighten up for you?
No.
Yeah,
don't scream at him. It's a different generation. Get your ass in there. Give me 20.
Yeah, that's how it is. That's how it should.
That's true, Talent. And by the way, Talent, there's some kids on your front lawn. I want you to go out there and get them off.
I already shot him. I got a BB gun in here. I'll be shooting.
All right, let me talk about the next thing. Since we're talking about the NBA, I'm going to jump into the last night's game in a second. But I saw a report this morning that the general manager of the Golden State Warriors came out and said officially that Klay Thompson is not going to be ready for a good large portion of the first half of the season. So Golden State Warriors fans have got to be concerned because now Klay Thompson is not on pace to where he's supposed to be returning and everything else. Sounds like concerning issue to me. Talent, what's your thoughts when you hear the GM said that about Golden State?
First of all, what do you do with all that time off?
I know, right? It's almost 2 years.
What do you do now? If we don't catch him in a strip club or two, I'm gonna be upset. That's a lot of time off, bro. If I'm a Warrior fan, I'm really contemplating what do I do. I say this though. I'll be honest and say this. Thank God that the other two counterparts are kind of keeping it exciting out there. You know, I watched some Warrior games this year, especially towards the end of the season. Very competitive and very entertaining. And let's keep in mind, Steph touching those records at the same time. So they're being talked about. They're still relevant. Are they the number one seed? No. Are they the championship? No. Obviously, one of the counterparts are gone. But a team like that can easily just go into the sunset, dissolve away. And I think that they're keeping it a little exciting. But I'm a fan, bro. Fig will tell you, and Amir will tell you, this couldn't be happening in New York.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell you. Fig, what's your thoughts?
It's concerning because of the level of play that Klay Thompson brings to the table, man. I mean, if anybody watched the Golden State Warriors this year and don't think the addition of a player like Klay Thompson, which is not just a scorer, Klay Thompson also plays defense and plays some of the tougher point guards on the opposing team. So the fact that you lose a player his caliber for any length of time, this has to be devastating. And as a fan, I'd be worried, about Klay Thompson coming back and his health, because he's so important to the success of the team, and they're not getting any younger. I mean, these guys are in their early 30s. How many years do they actually have left? That's usually the end of your NBA career once you start getting into your 30s. And time is not on their side.
Amir, talk to me.
You know what's so crazy? I find it a bit disheartening, and for me personally, as a fan of the game, I'm finding it disheartening because it would really be great to see, obviously Klay Thompson and Steph Curry as the dynamic duo that we've come to know them as. When you go out, night in and night out, and you watch Damon Lillard and McCullough, when you go out and you watch some of these other, dynamic guards who are, doing such a great job, you miss that. And as a fan of the game, regardless of whether or not you love or hate the Golden State Warriors, it just to not see that, in the last 2 years and the possibility of, like they said, going into half of next year is a bit disheartening. But bigger than that is my hopes and prayers that Klay Thompson, does obviously fully recover and he can come back and be, what we've known him to be. We all are, fans of the sport, and we all have seen, unfortunately, situations similar to this where a player of that caliber has not made it back to what we perceive them to be. And that was always the tough part. The Grant Hills, the, various other players who, promising start, but then some weird freak injury happened and they never seemed to get back to the format to which, we were accustomed to seeing them play at. So my hope and, wish is that he gets back to that, and we'll have to wait and see, All
right, let's talk about the games last night, man. First of all, I wanted to bring up the Milwaukee Bucks game against the Miami Heat, which I thought was going to be a lot competitive, but the Milwaukee Bucks surprised the hell out of me because they hit 22 3-pointers and the game was over. It was over so fast, so quickly that I didn't even watch the rest of the game. I was like, okay, this game's over. Like, I don't see the meaning of me watching. As soon as I saw them down, I saw the Heat down by 34. I was like, so anyway, how the Red Sox doing? Everything else, I was like, what else is going on? What else can we watch? You know what I mean? Flipping back and forth. Well, I don't know about you, Talent, but that was my thought.
No, that's you talk about real talk. I went right to Netflix. I'm laying there and I'm like, it's the one night off I got, like the one night to myself. And I'm like, I'm gonna watch these games. Man, third quarter's up by 30. I said, well, that's on Netflix. And I watched 2 movies back to back because it was such a blowout. And then I'm not gonna lie to you, I forgot to click back into the next game. I was like, I was done for the night. It was so I mean, it's playoffs, man. We want to see playoff basketball, and it was never, ever, ever close. I want to say it was like 15-2 or something, or 17-2, the first jump out. So it was like, okay, it's early. They're going to come back. No, it compounded and compound. And the takeaway for me, the biggest takeaway, anytime I watch a game and I see a guy rock out that I never said his name in my life, Forbes.
Yeah.
I never seen this guy. Like, I started doing research right there. I felt like I was doing homework for school. I was like, oh, Popovich. Okay, the Spurs. He had him. Okay, boom, boom. And then Reggie Miller's giving him big ups, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, the game got so boring so fast. I'm like you, Frank. I was on Netflix 2 movies in a row.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell you. Fig, the Milwaukee Bucks have now shown their utter dominance over the Miami Heat this season, bro. Utter dominance. And last night they put the cherry on top.
Man, we got a term. I don't know if everybody uses it, but we got a term me and my boys sometimes use. We call something a TV beating. A TV beating means they beat this dude so bad, it had to be in a script. Like it was a script. Like, you know, the writer wrote this script, man, and he had it in detail where this dude gets his behind severely whipped. And because it's in the script, the guy has to lose like that. That's what last night was. The Milwaukee Bucks put a TV beating on the Miami Heat like it was scripted. Like, you know, okay, this man's going to hit this 3-pointer over here, and that guy, like, you know, it was just that way. It like the team had to win. And the thing that was so impressive to me, I didn't turn it off. I'm going to tell you why. Because the Miami Heat are a well-coached team, and they got a bunch of rough riders and some dogs over there, like some real gangsters, like rough riders. And they still got they was trying to stink the game up, rough it up, and they was still getting their ass whipped. Like it was a script. I was like, oh, Lord.
Fig,
impressive, man. It was just impressive.
Fig, you kept it on because you wanted background music. Tell the truth. That's all.
So what now?
That's what you kept it on because you wanted background music. That's all. Tell the truth.
I needed something, man.
All right. Talk to me. Tell what you got.
You know, it's so crazy. I watched it all the way to the end as well. I was just curious, and I'm going to tell you why, because I was curious to see, you know, in the last couple of years, we've been talking about, you know, the Milwaukee Bucks, and we've been, you know, saying that they're a team on the verge, And I wanted to see if the players stayed the course. One of the things that was interesting to Fig's point about watching Miami yesterday, I've never seen, what's my man, the main dude for Miami Heat, the
Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Butler. I've never seen Butler look sort of like, you know, like somebody took all of his, you know, his bite out of him. That dude is always a dog all the way to the end. You could see that in his eyes yesterday, he didn't have it. The fight wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that was interesting to me because I've never seen him in that state. I don't care who he's playing against and what the game is. He's always, you know, like ready. And yesterday to see that, you know, from him, and because he's the emotional leader and the leader of that team, I was like, wow, it's interesting. And to see, like I said, Giannis and them keep their foot on the pedal, continue to knock down shots, and continue to execute. I was like, they may be finally turning the corner. Obviously, again, this is the Miami Heat, and right now the Heat just don't seem to have the fight in them. So we have to wait and see how this transfer, you know, if they first get out of this series, and then whether or not this carries over into the next series.
Well, let me tell you
the series is over.
That ass whupping was so profound. Jimmy Butler got his ass handed to him. Matter of fact, that's what I watched, the Butler.
This series, listen, out of all the series that's happening right now in the NBA, I could literally declare this series is over. And I'm gonna say the reason why is because Milwaukee has beat the Heat handily during the season, and now they beating them in the playoffs. So I think they took the life right out of the Heat. I mean, if the Heat turning around, it could be something, you know, phenomenal. But speaking of turning things around, Portland played Denver last night, and of course we saw a series turn around last night because Denver said, okay, we ain't done. Portland said we ain't done. It looked like, you know, a neck and neck fight. You know what I mean? I'll be honest. I watched some of that series, some of that game last night. It was boring to me because Dame was trying to come back, and they just didn't have enough Dame fighting them and everything else. So I kind of got tuned out. But we still got to talk about it. So, Talent, what was your thoughts after you saw that the series is tied 1-1? Do you think it's going to go 7? What you think?
Well, when you look in the scoring column and the numbers and the stats, and you see the type of game Dame has, and for them still to handedly get whooping, it's going to be 7 games. That's the one thing I got from the takeaway. Another takeaway was when they won game 1, the Trailblazers, Carmelo was an intricate part, had a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Carmelo had 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to have to – they need output from Melo for it to happen. When you look on one side, you're talking about, don't get me wrong, Dame gonna get hits. But you're looking at 3 people in double figures versus 6, tells the story right there in the box.
Mm-hmm. Right. Fig, what's your thoughts?
You know what? I'm going to put on my coach's hat for a minute, and I'm going to say this. We know for a fact that Dame Lillard and C.J. McCollum are box office. But if they ever want to win, I mean, really win, they're going to have to score less points. I'm going to tell you why. Because they got a baller as a center. And although Carmelo only scored 5, your center, which is no scrub, scored 8 points. You got to feed your big man. If you want your big man to be there for you, and the other team's big man is kicking your behind, then you're going to have to feed that beast. Forget this brand new school positionless basketball and everybody going to shoot 3-pointers all goddamn game. This is the playoffs. If you want to win, you're going to have to feed your big man and you're going to have to play some defense. You do that for the first half, the first 3 quarters, or do it in increments. But we know damn well that Dame Lillard and C.J. McCollum can shoot from half court, and they can put up as many points as they want in the 4th quarter. But in the first 2 to 3 quarters, you're going to have to feed your big man if you want to win. You give Carmelo the ball on the block and let him use his big ass to score in the paint. You're going to have to make these dudes play some defense so they're tired.
Pause.
So that in the 4th quarter, Dame Lillard and C.J. McCollum could go off.
Pause.
They just doing this all damn game. It's terrible, man. I don't know how you waste the talent of these 2 ballers, these 2 all-stars, and you just running around like little kids shooting up 3-pointers for 4 quarters. You can't win.
Stop that, man. It's too early in the week to bring up balls and big asses. These are grown-ass men. And all you notice is a big ass. He got a big ass.
I've been married for 20 years, man. Mind your business.
I'm here. Talk to me. Tell me what you think.
You know what? I do think Fig has, some definite point. I think that the game has gotten out of hand with the fact that everybody, feels that, just putting up the 3-pointer. I get it. That's the game now, and we have to respect where the game is. But what I did really appreciate is Joker. We talking about Dame and we, talk about McCullough, but you got to give Joker his just due. This is a man who, first of all, he got to be one of the slowest cats in the NBA. I don't think there's anybody slower than Joker. And to watch him methodically, pick apart teams, and it's not like he's doing this with any real athleticism. He's not doing it with speed. He's not doing this with agility. He is just slowly but surely picking dudes apart. Speaks to 2 things. First of all, his basic basketball IQ is off the charts. But the fact that the man passes, the fact that the man hits timely shots, and then he does what Fig was just talking about, gets his players involved, that's a big part of the game. I don't want to rebound if I'm not going to get a shot every now and again. Why am I taking elbows to the face and to the head and all that? And the only thing we do is come down so you could, pull up for long threes. What part of the game is that? And to Fig's point, a lot of these players, if they're going to win, and especially at the championship level and beyond, you've got to make sure all players are involved in the game, not only in just the areas that you want them to be involved in. So that means every now and again, like he said, you got to feed these guys. You got to allow them to make some mistakes or whatever the case may be. And that's a big part of the game. I feel like the teams that can find that honest balance, they're the ones who stand the best chance of being able to, continue to compete and win a championship.
If Larry Bird was reincarnated and was to come back in the NBA and play the center, he would be Nikola Djokovic, because they both are just as slow. They both can't jump. They both can pass, and they both can shoot. I was like, this is Larry Bird reincarnated. Larry Bird had a son. That's what I do.
You know what's funny? You know, some of the most talented dudes in the NBA right now are not the most athletic dudes in the game. Like you think about Luka, you talk about the Joker. You remember Zebo? You know what I mean? When he played the game, he wasn't athletic, but they able to maneuver and they got savvy and they could get their points and they play defense, rebounds, all of that, man. You don't need to be super athletic, but he's right, man. Joker was kicking they behind, and Nurkic is just standing there, and all he scored was 8 points. That's 2 points a quarter. You got to feed that man. You got to feed that man.
Let's move on. In other news, in the NFL, Antonio Brown has officially signed his contract. He officially passed his physical. He officially filed his, he officially did everything he's supposed to do, and he officially going to get that $6 million for that 1 year that he's supposed to get. So, Tom, when you hear that Tom Brady got his binky, what you think?
Well, told you it was going to happen. Obviously, one thing we've learned from AB over all this time is he loves drama. He loves the headlines. He loves to make people go, "Oh my God, what's going to happen here?" And then he just does what he's supposed to do. So I knew it was going to happen. Not surprised at all. They about to write. I told you they're going to write that ship, and they're going to ride till the wheels fall off, man. Tom Brady, if nothing else, he's a super competitor. He's not letting no key pieces go if he can help it.
I agree with that part. Fig.
He called me. And he wanted to know the ratio of apple cider vinegar and water to be able to get that stuff out of your system. And I told him it was 25% apple cider vinegar and 3 parts water. And I told him to drink that 3 to 4 times a day, and get it down and to lay off of some of the extracurricular activity. And he'd be able to pass his medical. And he did. And I don't want to take all the credit because he had to do the work, but I did give him the formula to be able to get that stuff out of his system. So Tom Brady, give me a call because I was partly responsible for you getting AB back.
It sounds like you're trying to get some sugar out of his tank. I don't know.
Does he have a big ass too or something?
I don't know.
Whoa.
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
Whoa, Amir, what you think?
You know what's so funny is as soon as you mentioned that he signed, I thought of the talent. And a couple of days ago when he said, look, the man, has a few kinks in his armor that he has to work out so that, when he officially comes to the table, everything will be what they need it to be. And it sounds, even to Fig's point, that's exactly what happened. And I do think that he is a bit of a prima donna. And he does like the attention, which, fortunately, unfortunately, again, another microcosm of this new generation of athletes. These guys love headlines. They love being able to have their brand, or there be some controversy or some stuff for people to talk about. So then, therefore, they can make whatever other business moves that they probably make utilizing that energy. So we can't be too mad at them. But again, it's a wonderful, signing, obviously, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, we just going to have to wait and see how this all plays out once the season starts. So kudos to that man.
All right. And there's another Julio Jones update. Notice I said the name correctly. Y'all give me a hard time for that. It's Julio. The Julio Jones update. Notice that. I saw this morning they were trying to look at to see which teams could actually absorb his salary because he got a huge salary that people are trying to figure out how he could absorb. And right now, besides New England, and besides the Ravens, San Francisco is now in the mix. So, he's got 3 definite teams that could absorb his salary. So, Talent, out of those 3 teams, I know we talked about him, probably being with the Patriots yesterday. Let's not talk about him being with the Patriots. Let's talk about him being with the Ravens or San Francisco. If you could see him in a Ravens uniform or San Francisco uniform, besides the Patriots, which one you think would be a good shot for him, Talent?
Well, to be honest with you, I can see him in both of those teams fitting quite well. But if you got the win now mentality, is going to be San Fran.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Baltimore being like giving you that guarantee. You almost got a guarantee when you look at San Fran and the pieces they already got together. But Julio, man, I don't know if you ever been paying attention. Yesterday, he was on an interview on one of the sports shows, and I don't know if he knew he was live, and he was dissing teams, man. He's like, "Where do you want to go? I know I'm not going to Dallas. I'm trying to win."
Right.
So to answer the question, Frank, I can see mostly because where he at in the stage of his game, San Francisco.
Fig, what's your thoughts? 60 seconds.
The show was undisputed. Yeah, I saw that. That was funny. Yeah, man, I think he needs to go to Baltimore, and I would say San Francisco, except San Francisco doesn't seem to have their quarterback position solidified. They don't seem to know who is going to be the QB. Is going to be Garoppolo? Is going to be, you want to come in with a rookie quarterback? So for that reason, I would, out of the two, I would go with Baltimore. But my first pick is, up where the cold weather is.
Lamir, what you think?
I'd love to see him at Baltimore. I think that would be a beautiful fit for him over there. That young man needs, some other receivers who can get the job done. We already know what he can do with his legs and what he can do with his arm. So he really needs somebody who he can count on to get down the field, get open, and he can get the ball to. So I think Baltimore would be absolutely phenomenal. So if it was me, I'd like to see him in Baltimore.
All right, y'all. That's the show.
Hold
Go
on,
ahead.
Frank. Let me say this before you close out. You always open up with the COVID report. I want us to close out on the Negro report.
What's the Negro?
We had a Negro incident in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know if you've seen this news, where Dominique Wilkins was refused entry into a restaurant. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to say it was his attire, but they're clearly pointing out, him and his lady, clearly pointing out people that was dressed. He said he was dressed better than half the restaurant. And then when they said, we don't have a table for you, 3 people walk up and they go, we'll be right with you. Give me a minute. We'll get your table.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's the Negro report.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I like that. Tell everybody out there how they can follow you, bro.
Hey, follow your boy on Twitter at It's Just Comedy, on Instagram at Talent the Comedian, and on Facebook at King Talent.
Fig.
Follow me on social media platforms at Comedian Fig. Box Seats, Monday through Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. Best damn sports show on TV.
And Amir, thank you for joining the show, and thank you for sitting in Rodney Perry, bro. Tell us everybody out there how they can follow you.
Again, thank you guys for letting me on the show. A-Rock Sealy at IG and plain old Amir Sealy on Facebook. I'm easy to find. I ain't hiding from nobody. Plus, I'm usually chasing these guys around. So wherever they are, usually I am too.
That's Amir, y'all. That's Talent. That's Fig. The show's called The Box Seats. We're on the channel called The Humor Mill. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. We'll be back tomorrow. This week, we're going to have some guests. So we're going to do what we normally do, y'all. Add a couple of guests, have a couple of interesting stories, all that. Thank y'all for watching.
I'm going to try to get Rick Brunson.
Okay. But you heard him. You heard him say that.
The Suns in the playoffs, baby.
You hear that. You hear that. All right, y'all. We'll see you. Take care. Peace.
Peace.